Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth by Progress, Kentucky. We have 26 days to go until November 7th, folks. This week, we're going to continue to cover the twists and turns of the upcoming election. We got polls, we got debates, plus a couple additional news stories to cover. And then we got an interview with Sierra Enlow, the Democratic candidate for Agriculture Commissioner. She's been on the show before, but we're going to meet her over in the campaign corner to hear how the campaign is going. And then we're going to close out with our pleading, imploring call to action. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? I am pretty sure you are, because that's why you are watching a political show on the internet or listening to us on your podcast platform. But folks, people are trying to convince you right now. Political ads are on your television trying to convince you that Andy Beshear is Joe Biden's running mate, or that he's against churches, or that he's soft on crime. And these ads really only have one goal. They want to convince you to stay home instead of supporting the candidate you were leaning towards. This is not exactly a recipe for more Democratic engagement. That's why Progress Kentucky is excited to be a part of the Kentucky Future Project. We're going to build the political coalition of new voters, progressive voters, and non-white voters who can come together to make our commonwealth better. We're working with great folks like Planned Parenthood, Hood to the Holler, many others to turn out the new Kentucky majority and achieve better electoral outcomes for our commonwealth. If you want to support our efforts within this coalition, please make a donation at our Secure Act Blue website. $5, $50, $500, it all adds up, and it'll give us the materials and the tools we need to make a positive difference on November 7th and beyond. So let's check in right now with our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, what's your protest sign say today. And you and the internet, please play along. We want to read what your sign says. You can put it in the chat while we're sharing ours. I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Chilesburg, a community that the last time they expanded the urban growth boundary in Lexington, my community came about. So we are right there, very close to the horse farms, which is nice. But I always feel a little bit guilty about that. But please do, I think, come check out Chilesburg. You let me know what you think about it. I think it's a just sea of vinyl siding, but I'm open to your opinions as well. All right, my sign says today, defend democracy, defeat Cameron. That's what I'm holding up for the crowd at the rally. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Coming to you from Berea, Kentucky, the beautiful little town on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains. And let's see, what's my protest sign says, don't pee in my water and tell me to drink it. And most of y'all probably don't know, but the East Kentucky Power Company is trying to put a power line through our water reservoir, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna stand by and not try to stop them from doing that, because I want good drinking water, and we've got some of the best drinking water in the nation, because our reservoir is all surrounded by protected forest through Berea College. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad you were stepping up and helping out and calling them out for it. That's important. Well, welcome, Chris. Thanks so much for joining us again. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. We know that you are a teacher, and so asking you to do anything beyond just teach feels like we're asking a lot. But we appreciate what you're doing for the kids there in Berea. How are they this year? Are they treating you all right?
Yeah. The teaching's going fine. I took last year off because I was running the campaign and also doing trying to finish my PhD, which I'm not done yet. But and so they've gained some of the soft skills back that they lost right after COVID. So that's good, and so things are going good there. But yeah, between teaching and my toddler and the PhD, it's pretty busy around here.
We're amazed you're here, but also psyched you're ready to take on the power line as well. So, all right, let's get into the news. We've got a few stories we want to cover. The first one of news of the week, it's our perennial polar coaster. We are interested to find out what is going on with this governor's race. A lot of polls are internal. They don't get released, or they're just being done from kind of partisan reasons with partisan firms trying to fire up their supporters or their donors. But news broke this week that there was a poll that came out, an Emerson College poll. This is a firm that's ranked by, I think it's an A- poll by the New York Times. And this poll gives our man Andy Beshear a 16-point lead over the liar Dan Cameron, with 13% of folks undecided. So this is a big lead. 16 points is very significant, and definitely the biggest that anyone's seen, or at least sharing that they've seen. But absolutely, it's a fair amount of folks undecided, but not necessarily enough to overcome that lead. Polls are just a snapshot in time, right? And they're like as scientifically done as possible, but they're not guaranteed. So this is interesting news. I will say this one single result upsets our narrative of a terribly tight race, which, if you're looking to get people more engaged, a tight race is certainly more compelling than, somebody like absolutely destroying their opponent, right? But 16 points. Let's see. It's not over by a long shot, but I definitely think that this is a good sign for Andy. But I wonder what other folks who are watching this race throughout our state think. Does it feel close? Like, what we know is Andy won last time by like 5,000-ish votes, a little bit over 5,000 votes, which comes down to about a vote and a half per precinct across the state. So that's pretty tight. But 16 points is definitely not nearly as tight. I don't know. Chris, what do you think? Do you feel like it's a 16% lead that Andy's got, or is it more like that 1% that kind of got him in there the first time? What are you feeling?
I mean, considering how wackadoo Matt Bevin was, and he, and Andy won a squeaker against him, I my butt cheeks are still clenched. As many of us are in our silos of friends and online and stuff. Most of the people I know say that they're going to be voting for Andy, but that's not that's not saying a whole lot in terms of taking the pulse of the greater Commonwealth. I am intrigued though that our high school does like a mock election every year, and they have been very successful at having a high percentage of calling the races, from local to national. And this is Berea community, so like we're a really small school, but I guess we have just the right spreading of demographic in the building. That it's worked out that way. So I'm really curious of how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, when is the mock election? When should we tune back into Berea?
I'll have to ask the social studies teacher who runs it. He was working on it this week in terms of preparing for it. So I'm thinking that he'll probably try to do it in the next week, maybe two. I'll let you know when it's done.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool. And we've been doing a lot of canvassing. We've been out, knocking on doors, mostly in the 93rd district, which is, not an overwhelming Democratic district, although we might be in some of the precincts that are a little bit more that way. But and we've got a list of voters that we're knocking on doors, and they're not. It's just registered voters. It's not registered Democrats or anything like that. We're just talking registered voters. And it definitely feels like Andy's up by a lot. But I think your point is the most important one, Chris. Like, I think Morgan McGarvey said this. Maybe he didn't originate it, but he's like, the idea is there's only two ways you can run a race. And that's, run like you're behind or unopposed, right? So there's like, if you're unopposed, you got it. But if otherwise, you should run like you're behind, and don't take anything for granted, and put as much time and energy into as you can. But I feel like Dan Cameron, for all his many faults, They are legion, and his many lies and his horrible, position on abortion, which is now more important, I think, to voters because of what has happened at the Supreme Court. I think he's no Matt Bevin, right? And Matt Bevin had 4 years of pissing off every single constituency he possibly could, except for his big business owners, and he barely lost, right? So yeah, 16 points, no way.
Yeah. That I feel like that, the 16 points might be propaganda to get people to relax and be like, he's got this in the bag, I don't need to go vote. But no.
Yeah, say what you will about Dan Cameron, but he is a way better politician than Matt Bevin.
Yeah.
Which is the scary thing, probably. All right, so let's move on to what are you gonna do now that you've got this information? If you want to judge yourself, like, is it a 1% lead maybe, or is it a 16% lead? You can watch these two in action. So we finally got some debates coming our way. The first debate, I think, is next week. The Northern Kentucky debate is from 7 to 8 p.m. on October 16th, Monday, October 16th. It's at Northern Kentucky University, which will not it's not open to the public, but you can watch it on the Link Northern Kentucky Facebook page. I think WLEX in Lexington is going to broadcast it, and I think WDRB channel 41 in Louisville. And then I think there are 3 more chances to see the two kind of go head to head. 8 p.m. October 21st. The League of Women Voters candidate debate, and that should be on WLKY. But that one, I'm not 100% sure that Dan Cameron has committed to that one. But I do know, I'm pretty confident the next two are. So October 23rd, that's the Kentucky Tonight debate that's hosted by KET. So that one's at 8 p.m. on the 23rd. Definitely a good one to check out. And then 7 p.m. on October 24th, the next day, that's the Kentucky debate hosted by WKYT. So should be a chance to see them a few times between now and November 7th. So if you are, like me, undecided, no, or if you're like, or you just want to see these two go at it and see who gets the better. My hunch is the person you like is going to win. And my hunch is if you are the person, if you're watching this, you probably like Andy. So
have you seen Cameron debate? I don't think I've ever watched him in a debate. I've seen Bashir in a debate, and he does quite well in composure and responses, but I've never seen Cameron in a debate, so I'm kind of curious of how he carries himself.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch for sure. Ginger in the comments says there's a debate tomorrow in Paducah at 11:30. So if you are in Paducah, they'll both be there. Show up, check it out. I don't know where in Paducah. So good to see that they're going to be mixing it up a bit on the campaign trail and giving voters a chance to kind of see them both in action. All right.
That's cool.
But yeah, Chris, you think their debate performance might sway your vote?
I mean, I know who I'm voting for, but I'm just curious of how Cameron handles himself in a debate. Like, some people are just really bad at it, and some are pretty good, but still have their ticks where you can get underneath their skin a little bit. So it's an art form.
Absolutely. And I think, my hunch is that, Dan Cameron is pretty slick. He'll probably have his canned things he's going to say. And I think he'll do a lot of the, ignoring the question and say what he wants to say and get his digs in on Andy. And, I'm sure we'll hear that Andy is Joe Biden's running mate. I'm sure we'll hear that Andy hates churches because he shut them down during COVID. I'm sure we'll hear that Andy is soft on crime and that he personally wants to, turn your child transgender. It's like the attacks will come for sure. But
oh yeah, absolutely. And that's a debate tactic I always annoys me. And when I see Democrats do it or candidates I like, it's definitely a little notch against them as if they ignore the question. and just go off on their own. Now, if they give a decent answer and then pivot, like I've seen Bernie Sanders do that masterfully. So many times, like he'll give an answer and then just carve out where it links to what he really wants to talk about.
Yeah, the like, super quick answer for the thing they asked him. But what I really want to tell you is this. Yeah, right. It feels less like, I don't know, dismissive or disrespectful, right? It's like, yeah, no, there's a question. We all heard the question, and we hear you not answering the question. Like, why are you calling us idiots? Like, like you got to acknowledge the question they asked, and ideally you can get something at, respond to it quickly, and then move on to the thing that you really think is more important. I buy that. That's a useful strategy. All right. Well, lots of opportunities coming up. Make sure to circle a few of these dates on your calendar to see them in action. Cheer on Andy. Boo, Dan Cameron. But Chris, you got a story you wanted to bring us. It's a little more at the local level.
Yeah. So the legislature has been whole hog after the Jefferson County public school system. There was a debacle at the beginning of the school year where the buses didn't run proper routes and all this stuff, and that was really a funding issue that was created by the legislature, so they could try to get a dig in. And so the JCPS, Jefferson County Public School Board Vice Chairman Corey Shull said he hopes that the decision send a message to the state lawmakers. And this decision is about a court case that was in the system. So 2 courts have now ruled in JCPS's favor on the Kentucky General Assembly's decision to unconstitutionally target Jefferson County Public Schools. So an aside, the legislature wants to split JCPS into 2 school districts. And the fear here is that they would take a richer part of Jefferson County and the poorer part of Jefferson County, which would also be splitting on racial lines pretty drastically. And create like a school system that's doing really well, that's white, and a school system that would be doing poorly and underfunded, and that's largely black. And so we're fighting against this of what the legislature is trying to do. So Corey Shull says that my hope is that in the future, Kentucky lawmakers will be more thoughtful about proposed legislation and work collaboratively with all stakeholders to create and pass bills that are constitutional, equitable, and in the best interest of all Kentucky school children, as well as boards, teachers, staffs, administrators who serve them. Now, Republican or Representative Jason Nemes, who's a Republican out of Louisville, who is among the House Republicans who have announced a checklist of changes they are seeking for JCPS, said that he has no plans to change course. So he's lost 2 lower court cases, and they're still hammering down. And Nemes said that we will be undeterred. And the House Majority Whip, who represents Eastern Jefferson County and portions of Shelby and Oldham counties, we remain undeterred that we have to improve our school system. Now, the big question here is improve for who? So based on what I just told you, you can make your own assumptions about who they're trying to improve it for. And we know that the GOP has been after public school systems for decades now. And as a school teacher, I feel it and see it every day. The lack of funding, the lack of structural support, the mundane, worse than mundane, just asinine tasks that we are asked to do that have nothing really to do with the betterment of teaching our kids in our classroom day to day, and it's just paperwork to show that we're teaching our kids, that takes away from our time. It's absurd. What do you think about this?
It's, I think it's incredibly telling, right? That the GOP supermajority like is not going to acknowledge the error of their ways, and that they are going to keep ramming, legislation through that that courts deem kind of unconstitutional, right? It's just, it's their way or, nothing, right? That's all it is. And so, I'm sure they'll just look at ways to maybe change that court's outlook, see if they can get some folks in there who are going to go their way. But yeah, it's just it's gross, and it's really unfortunate that Jason Nemes is still there. I think the voters in that district had a really great opportunity to trade up and to elect Kate Turner, I think, who ran against Jason last time. I don't know if she's going to run again. I hope she does. She's been very active on social media and did a lot of really important work calling out, Dan Cameron's positions on reproductive justice, and did a really good job of highlighting his slippery positions. So yeah, that guy's just bad, and the GOP supermajority is like ignoring, what is constitutional, because it's what their constituents want. It's what their power, their big donors that they are more catering to, right? Want them to do. So
I think
gross, but not surprising.
I follow Kate on TikTok and watch her TikToks, and I'm pretty sure she mentioned that she plans on running again. But she also works full time, and as someone who's worked full time and run a campaign, this is exceptionally hard. And I think she's, doing something to maybe I can't remember if it was starting early or she's putting out more feelers to try to make sure that she's able to do this while also working full time. And so yeah, it's yeah.
Being a candidate is a tough job for sure. Yeah. All right. So I got one more story to cover, and then we're going to head to Sierra Enlow. So if you are tuning in because you're excited to hear from Sierra, we are too, and we are going to get to her in just a moment. But there was one story that I saw in the Herald Leader that I just could not ignore, and I really wanted to share it with you guys. So this biblical worldview is apparently going mainstream in GOP circles, and they came to Lexington. And this is from the Herald Leader's Alex Acquisto. Public schools are working to replace parental authority by indoctrinating and grooming Kentucky's children with a liberal agenda. Yes, that's right. They're grooming Kentucky's children with a liberal agenda. Major medical associations are in cabal with the LGBTQ revolution and want to push transgenderism on youth. And Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is a tyrannical governor who wants to block people from attending church. So these are the messages that were shared Saturday by a series of panelists, including several sitting lawmakers and the Republican candidate for lieutenant governor, at the Family Foundation's first ever Kentucky Family Forum in Lexington. Apparently a couple of hundred people showed up in Lexington to hear from the Kentucky Family Foundation's executive director, David Walls, and GOP representative and leader of the anti-drag bill and SB 150 in the legislature, Josh Calloway, Lindsay Titchener, and other fear-based GOP reps on a panel titled After Roe, a pro-life agenda moving forward. Representative Nancy Tate from Brandenburg talked about their next steps for abortion restrictions in Kentucky. Now that abortion is currently banned in the Commonwealth, except for when a pregnant person's life is imminently threatened, they agreed that the next North Star policy focus must be achieving equal protection status for fetuses in utero. Equal protection with living humans. Tate also said that Kentucky needs to consider punitive laws against organizations that aid and abet Kentuckians who travel out of state to get abortions. That folks, is your GOP agenda. If all that stuff sounded like horrific yet familiar because it's in the ads, because it's it's what they campaign on, they are unrelenting in advancing this agenda. And the fact that a couple of hundred folks showed up in Lexington to take part in this fear festival and hate festival is just it's a problem. And don't go to sleep on our democracy, people, because these folks are organizing, they're scheming, they're campaigning, and right now they've got pretty much carte blanche to do what they want in our state because the legislature has that GOP supermajority, super duper majority that these folks are, part and parcel of. So I don't know. I was just not aware they were kind of that out and about and that they were that prominent in a place like Lexington. Chris, I don't know if you've, were familiar with them or if you run across them, but any thoughts about that?
Wow. I mean, anytime that if there's a big group of people, they're going to be trying to rally up their base, and so certainly, there's some Republicans in Lexington, just percentage wise fewer than Democrats, but still there's a lot of Republicans there. But it's so frustrating to see this, and again, they're railing against education, saying that we have this liberal agenda. I'll tell you what my liberal agenda is: one, to get students to do their homework, like stuff that's meaningful, that we have state standards to teach. And I'm teaching those standards and trying to get them to be, good critical thinkers, to think, from multiple sides of a problem, to get them to be able to read some text and pull out some context from it, to reason, and to do all these things. Now, if your enemy is critical thinking, then there's a problem. So they're afraid of people who critically think and who can figure out where to get proper news, and that's just so telling. Talking about Andy trying to stop people from going to church, like as Nate pointed out in the comments, Andy's a deacon at his church. Like, he is a prominent member of his church. So this is just baseless and nonsense. And I get it that we have a lot of problems with our country and the world and things, and typically Republicans and Democrats see the same problems that we want to address, but we come at it from a different angle. And sometimes that angle is because of misinformation that is seeped in, and sometimes it's just a philosophical difference in philosophical views. Somebody cannot literally pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That is impossible, and that should not be a saying. And so,
it's just physics, people. It's just physics. You can't do it. There's
right.
Hey, so I want to note that apparently in the better late than never category, we have our third co-host, Kimberly Cecil Jones, has joined us. Kimberly, there?
Kimberly!
Yes, I am here. I apologize to all the great people because I was at physical therapy and I didn't take my phone with me because I was tired of people constantly texting me and calling me concerning my daughter. And just want to let you guys know that my daughter said that she will not have to go over there to Israel or Iran, Iraq. She's going to be pretty much stationary in South Korea. So just to let you know that. But on this story right here, I agree with everything that Chris said, every last bit of it. I just think a lot of this is just fodder. A lot of this is, it's just too much going on. Can I say that, Chris? Can I add to that, piggyback off of that? Just say it's just entirely too much going on. And it's almost like there's no end in sight. So I just agree with everything that you talked about in your commentary. All of these different things that our own Kentuckians are trying to do to us, to our families. It just doesn't make any sense, actually. And talking about Andy, they're going to do as much as they possibly can do because they know he is about to be the next governor of Kentucky again, and again.
Well, you missed it earlier, but Chris is still clenched on this race, and I'm with him. All right, so hey, we got to move on because we've got a wonderful guest that we want to check in on over in the campaign corner. This will be her second time on the show. Very thrilled to be bringing on your next agriculture commissioner, Sierra Enlow. Who is outstanding in her field. I love this picture of Sierra, like literally outstanding in a field with a lot of cows. So thanks for joining us. How are things going, Sierra?
Going well. It's nice to be on the show today, and that's actually in my backyard at the family farm. It's not too far out in the field.
Well, if you have cows, aren't they in a field? Isn't that where you put cow? I mean, I don't know. I would never be a candidate for ag commissioner. And I learned the most about it when last you were on and you told me what it did. So I'm not an ag minded individual, but I feel like cows go in fields. Is that a fundamental misunderstanding on my part?
Certainly sometimes that happens to be in a barnyard now. So.
Barnyards, put them in barnyards, people. You heard it here first. So beyond those cows, how are people treating your candidacy? What's the response you're getting out there?
Yeah, we're actually getting a really positive response, and it seems to be that people are really excited in particular about this race from the down ballot candidates. And so that's been great across the state of Kentucky. We were in Owensboro last week, had a fundraiser, and stopped by the coordinating office, and then did an event with the Owensboro Owensboro Davis County Democrat Party. And so great turnout in Western Kentucky. We've been all across the state last week and this week. Certainly have been making sure that we're making the stops.
And what is resonating with people in terms of, your ideas and what you're sharing with people? Is there something you found that really people like about the kind of the platform you're pitching for the ag commissioner?
Sure. I think what most people are excited about is that we're talking about this race as if it's not just production agriculture, which it's not. It's really encompasses everyone in Kentucky. That's why everyone votes for it. And I think a lot of voters across Kentucky haven't had a commissioner of agriculture race that's talking about how they're included into the conversation instead of exclusively focusing on rural issues.
That's very cool. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a big rural fan, as we just heard. I know a lot about cows. Also, we went to an apple orchard this weekend, so that was pretty exciting, and I got to see the trees. I was amazed at how small some of those trees are, yet they are so productive. You can get so many apples on a thin little young tree. I was shocked.
Yeah. Well, that's the great part of having science in agriculture. I mean, we spend a lot of time in the ag industry thinking about how we're making scientific-based decisions so that we can get those results and get the best efficient production on the smallest amount of space. So you got to see it firsthand and in action, and hopefully you got to try some different apple varieties while you're there. Everyone, I think, assumes that there's only red, yellow, and green apples, and there's certainly a diverse variety that we raise here in Kentucky.
Oh no, there's a ton of options. There were some great options. They were all very tasty. You don't have to do the red delicious, the golden delicious. There's many options. Although there was, you only get to like actually pick certain rows at certain times, right? And so one of it was like a Rosalie, I think was the name of the apple, and it's like the very disinterested high schooler who was like running the show, and he's like, you get Rosalie, that's on those are the three rows you get. I'm like, oh great, what's a Rosalie taste like? He's like, I don't know. Like, what? You work at the orchard, like they're right there. You should just taste one and tell me. But yeah. Anyway,
have you ever eaten a persimmon?
I've never eaten a persimmon, and
really?
I don't. Is it an apple?
No, it is very, very different. It's its own thing.
What about a pawpaw?
Yeah. Have you eaten a pawpaw, Aaron?
I feel like I've tried pawpaw jelly. Am I making that up though?
No,
I'm sure somebody's done it.
They're a fruit that's native to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a mango custardy type of texture, banana type of texture.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to a mushy banana kind of custardy texture. I foundered on them like 3 years ago, and so I've only eaten like one a year, and I'm like,
You
I'm done.
foundered on them? Like you ate so many you couldn't move? Is that what a founder is? What is
Like I ate so much pawpaw. I I don't even know. Like yeah, but we Ruin and I go and just walk around Berea and on the hiking trails and harvest or forage for whatever fruit. So persimmons and pawpaws and chestnuts and all that stuff and eat them. So yeah.
What's your position on pawpaw, Sierra? Are you pro pawpaw?
I think I'm pro any new crop for Kentucky farmers, but I think it's got to be something that you have a market for. So that's what I've always told everyone for any new crop in Kentucky. But in particular, I think that pawpaws are certainly one of those underappreciated culinary treats. So certainly would like to see them get more attention. They're getting.
They're revered, though. I feel like they're spoke about in hushed tones in Kentucky. I think pawpaws are like, if you know, or something.
Yeah. There's a pawpaw festival in southern Ohio, and I have a friend who has an orchard in Jackson County, and he told me that he was getting like $40 or $50 a pound this year because it was a bad pawpaw year from the frost. Like it just wild numbers. Yeah.
So I got to get Kimberly in here because I know that the ag commissioner has a role to play in hemp and hemp products. I don't know. I don't remember if Kimberly got you last time about Delta 8 and what your positions were there. But Kimberly, anything you want to ask about?
Yes. I don't know what a pawpaw is. I don't know if it tastes good or not. I'm too old to be trying a lot of new stuff. But I will say this, Sierra. Remember, I gave you that wonderful introduction at the Window Ford dinner.
Yes.
My hair was red then. But what I do want to ask you is a two-part question. What are you hearing from folks on the ground as you move around in all of the counties here in Kentucky? And also, what are we going to be doing about hunger in Kentucky? How can different impoverished areas get fresh fruits and vegetables? Because we've got a really big problem of that, especially in our more urban areas.
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of the issues that I've been trying to bring up on the campaign trail, and it's certainly something that we're hearing as we go to each Kentucky county. And it's not just hunger in general, because I do like to separate the food access conversation from the food insecurity portion of the conversation, because food access is truly having access to Kentucky products and having access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and that's not a symptom of being poor and so that's what I want to make sure that we're talking about. That's truly an access question, and that's what we see in West Louisville, and we see it in counties across Kentucky like Trimble County. They just don't have access to grocery stores, and as your next commissioner of agriculture, that's something that I really want to spend a lot of time working on, and making sure that we are helping to address, because it really is something that we have to make sure, as from an access perspective, that there are actually available sources there. The food insecurity question is something that's a little bit different, because that essentially means that you don't have the right resources to purchase food. And that's something that requires a different policy approach too. And that's something where I think it's really important that we talk about Feeding Kentucky, strengthening the infrastructure for Feeding Kentucky, particularly programs that allow us to sell what we call seconds in the agriculture industry, in our farm to food bank program, because that provides a solution to food insecurity while providing a secondary market for Kentucky agriculture products and stabilizes our farm incomes. The other program that I really want to spend some time talking about is our Double Dollars program at our farmers market, which allows you to bring your support, your SNAP benefits, and get double the value when you purchase them at a Kentucky farmers market. Those programs need to continue. The other program that really needs to have bolstered support And it's something that I will continuously advocate for as an ag commissioner is free school lunches. Not just because it helps solve the food insecurity issue, but it also helps us get exposure to different, we were talking about apples and we're joking about pawpaws. If we have free lunch, then we can start exposing kids to those Kentucky products so that they develop taste preferences for them. Whereas they may not have that access and may not be exposed to those products at their homes. And so that the school lunch program is a really valuable tool that we're underutilizing in that conversation of what Kentucky agriculture should look like.
That's great. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Of course, there's the challenge of actually getting the schools ready to do that type of lunch program, right? Because I think so many of the schools have kind of moved to like institutional food, which will not know what to do with the pawpaw, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's really too the other part of the conversation for your Commissioner of Agriculture. And we've been talking about that on the campaign trail too. It's about making sure that institutional access gets Kentucky ag products, right? So it's whether or not we're moving products from Kentucky's farm gate all the way into that corporate supply system. So there should be a world where we're talking about recruiting an economic development project here and a food manufacturing company here, and then we're putting Kentucky agriculture products into that food manufacturing facility. And so it's not necessarily that we want to look at one solution over the other, but there are a lot of great things that the Commissioner of Ag should be doing on this consumer side of agriculture. And that's part of why I've been talking about not just production agriculture, but these other aspects of the office. And I mean, that really helps Kentucky farmers, but it also makes sure that we're helping get exposure to other Kentucky products in different ways for consumers in the state.
So thank you for your answers. Like, there's two things that you said that I'm excited about what you said. One is my wife is a urban farmer here in Berea. And so like doubling the dollars at the farmers market and trying to get more people out there to do that would be amazing. The piggybacking on that farmers market thing, like, is I have two statements / questions. So the first one is in relation to farmers market, like, we have a farmers market that runs primarily 1 day a week, and during the bigger crop times it's 2 days a week, and that's pretty restrictive for a lot of people to get access to that really high quality locally grown food. And so do you think you have a plan in the works to try to help the farmers markets expand their access, availability, hours of availability, or whatever? And then the second thing that you mentioned was food for the students. I'm a high school chemistry teacher here at Berea Community, and having all food access for all the kids is really important. But also on top of that, getting local foods into the school system is really important. I've been trying to advocate for that in my school, and talking to the nutrition director and stuff, because we have a grab and go breakfast that every option on there pretty much is to spike somebody's sugar. Like, so they'll be alert for half a period and then they'll start going to sleep. They're like, oh yeah, I got this big chocolate muffin or what else? The little pancake things that already have syrup in them or whatever. Like, it's a ton of sugar, and you're getting calories, but are you being nourished? Are you going to be able to stay awake for the whole class and be sustained until lunch? So so you saying that you want to get local foods in there, are you going to, do you have any notions of addressing, like, maxing out the amount of sugar that a school can try to give their students?
No, I'm not actually a huge fan of limiting the amount of sugar, but I do want to give people access to different products as part of this. And what we know from school nutrition research, that the amount of calories the kids get is actually really important when you're under 18, because calories are the most important category in making sure that they're fed. So that's part of the reason that the school lunch program is so heavy on the sugar, because we have to make sure they hit a certain number of calories for the day before we send them home, essentially, because we have to know that they're getting enough calories for brain development. Once we're hitting that caloric goal, then we can start layering in and providing more nutritious options for them. So there's some like different aspects of why school lunch is set up the way that it is. But with that being said, I think that it is really important in the conversation that we're getting more options into the system for kids to make choices. And that starts with having these institutional conversations about the supply chain and making sure that our farmers can meet the supply of the school system. Because what we certainly don't want to do is have 50% of the school system there and wanting to take part of the products and us only be able to supply 25% of it. So there are some, issues there that as an ag commissioner, I'm looking forward to advocating for and helping fix the supply chains with that process. But to your first question, I actually think the school lunch program is a great vehicle to solving how do we get more food into their children's homes as well. And the school system can really help with that. I think Feeding Kentucky and greater partnerships with Meals on Wheels and some of these other agencies can help with this concept of getting a box of fresh fruits and vegetables to people's houses. And that's something that we have to really think about and make sure that we're providing access to. The farmers market system is great at providing fresh fruits and vegetables, but it's not designed to provide fresh fruits and vegetables in hours of appropriate access. One of the things that I happened to see on social media today, and I'm so proud to see this, we have a farmer in LaRue County that has a local farm fruit and vegetable operation. And they, in November, are actually providing the boxes for part of our food bank program for people who are on reduced incomes that need access to this. And that's a great example of something that's outside of a farmer's market, but still allows that farmer to provide those vegetables at a reasonable, as a supplemented price to those individuals. And we're just going to have to look at more solutions like that as we're really talking about this issue.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Sierra. Hey, Kimberly, any final questions or thoughts?
No, I just think Sierra is just wonderful, and I look forward to her being our next agricultural commissioner.
Well, thank you for
Here we go.
having me on today. I know that we covered a lot of topics specifically on food access and nutrition today, but I do want to make sure that voters know that they need to vote for this, and that we have to absolutely drive everyone has to bring 10 of their friends and remind them to vote for the ag commissioner's office. Because this is the office that Democrats often forget about, and it's one that we really need a strong showing for in this election cycle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everyone, has a role to play, and your office affects all of our lives. Really, it's not just for the farmers, right? So our friend Sandy Downs is in the comments saying for many years he didn't vote for it at all because he thought it was a farmer's issue and he wasn't a farmer. He says, how quaint. No such thing anymore. And he also is supporting pawpaws. So, all right. Thank you very much, Sierra. We've got your website up here so people can go to your website, support your campaign. And yep, there it is, sierraenlow.com. But yeah, thanks again. And good luck with the final closing. What did I just say? 27 days or something?
Yeah, it's just around the corner, and all of the down ballot candidates are tired. So when you see us out, make sure you're bringing coffee.
26 days and bring them a coffee. Yeah, no, for sure. And quit calling yourselves down ballot. It just makes you feel you're not lesser. You guys are important. You're on the ballot. Let's not worry about where down or up or wherever you are on that ballot, and people need to vote for you. That's for sure.
Well, and I always tell people that if we make it to having a Democrat ag commissioner, then everyone else should fare well on the ballot, because I'm the one at the very bottom. So they have looked at every Democrat candidate in the process of checking their vote for me.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's get everyone out and realize all the roles are important. And that's why we've had every single one of them on this show, is because we want to, highlight your candidacy and the great ideas you're bringing to a very important role.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. All right. So now we're going to do our call to action and close us out. Remember, folks, get out and vote. 26 days to go. Make your plans now. Tell 5 friends and get involved. Actually, I think we've got a little bit of a call to action to urge you to do so. Kimberly, could you do the call to action for us? This lovely.
I sure can.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. I can do that. Sign up for Progress Kentucky's 4 more years of a compassionate Commonwealth campaign. We're all in on reelecting Andy, putting Colonel Pam in the AG's office and Kim Reeder in the auditor's office. We're doing calling and canvassing every week between now and November the 7th. So sign up to help out today. And the link should be in the comments for you right there. Okay. Now, also, have to do the disclaimer. As you know, Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, CAVE, and also we are proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Make sure to join us next week when we'll be covering the breaking news out of the governor's race. Production of episode 134 was by the amazing Nate Orshan. And thank you, Nate, once again for the new song and all of our theme songs. You can find more information and music by going to natosongs.com. And that's NATO songs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcast and our show notes are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and just about wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. Logo and some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. So you made it this far. You only have a couple more days to go till it's time for you to have the weekend. Make sure that you're doing something so somebody can win, right, in these elections that we have. And also do something nice for somebody, because not only will it make them feel good, it will make you feel great. Same time, same channel next week. And we look forward to seeing you. Have a great rest of the week.